required.
Would you have freedom from wage slavery? Then come join the band, industrial band. Would you from hunger and misery be free? Then come here, share and command. There's a power in the band of working men. When we stand, hand in hand. That's a power that must rule in every land. On industrial union grand.
God, you know all the strophes.
I'm singing them tonight as part of a grand industrial choir at the Crystal.
At the Crystal. I'll be there.
Cool. It's gonna...
And there will be a sing out at the Crystal Theater tonight. $2 donation. It's Mayday. Thank you. Peace love. 7 p.m. at the Crystal.
International workers of the world, unite!
You have nothing to lose but your chains.
We are here today to remember the workers who were convicted in the Haymarket trials, one of the worst miscarriages of justice in our nation's history. We're here to mark May Day that was credited to honor working people around the world. We are marching to support immigrants who have been working hard and contributing to our nation. The Haymarket martyrs are here. We are marching for living wages and the right to organize. Anyone who doesn't know about the history of May Day is on May 1st, 1886, Lucy Parsons launched the very first May Day march.
Juliette. Et alors, c'est May Day. Il faut célébrer le 1er mai. Et oui.
To demand an 8-hour workday.
Comme tu vois, il y a foule.
Even children were forced to work 12-hour workdays if they wanted to work. Lucy and her husband and 2 children led 80,000 workers, through the streets of Chicago. Another 100,000 workers joined them worldwide. And they were there to build industrial unions, agitate for socialism. 3 days later, another rally, known as the Haymarket Riots. A bomb killed 7 policemen. No evidence ever linked Lucy Albert Parsons and the 7 immigrant union leaders that 7 immigrant union leaders to the blast. No evidence at all ever turned up. Yet a corporate media frenzy led to the sentence of death by hanging for 8 of the organizers of the rally. On this May Day, we also remember those Haymarket martyrs and continue the fight against capitalism and the war. Especially today, we wanted to dedicate our march to Cesar Chavez, the civil rights leader. He was the founder of the United Farm Workers, and Chavez fought for the rights of immigrants, and he refused to let the forces of agribusiness and racism scapegoat the workers. He was a child who grew up working in the fields. He built worker power to combat the inhuman working conditions and to organize the farm workers. I read an article about the farm workers. This was about the time that Robert Kennedy came to join the farm workers and urged them to continue their fight. And they found holes dug into the side of hills where the workers would crawl in there and sleep at night. And they were still charged rent by the landowners. And there was a stream nearby they used for water, and they were still charged for water. And of course there were no toilets at all. So that was just an idea, besides the little children working in the fields too. The problems that he was facing, besides they were migrant workers, and most of them were immigrants. And they weren't there from time to time, from year to year they moved and they went. They went wherever the crop needed picked. Okay, that's all I had to say. And Thank you for being here.
Yay! Can I share a poem? I won't be able to.
Sure.
Going to the courthouse or the Union Club?
Okay.
We must tell everybody because some people are meeting us at our destination.
We could walk
Let's
by.
just decide, okay? Because some people are drunk.
Courthouse.
We're going to the courthouse
All
now.
right, courthouse.
Courthouse. Go ahead.
After this brief announcement, there's a lot this poem doesn't say. It's pretty short.
Okay.
But Mayday, 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 can I have your attention, please? How many years passed since the Haymarket riot caused the world to freeze and finally granted workers 8-hour release? How many remember how we used to remember that moment in history and its anniversary? How many today working more than 40 hours a week trying to make ends meet? How many searching far and wide any job they seek? Far too many, far too far from life and family, working jobs that rape the land and cause disease, robbing us cultural and personal dignity. Deficit, debt, fiscal insecurities, franchised enslavement called economy. Immigration, emigration, refugees, global markets, the WTO, national security. In a global world, us and them become those who labor and those who manipulate the income and the deeds. Not far removed from feudal dynasties, there's a multinational corporate plutocracy eating away our futures by valuing abstract profit theories above social and environmental realities. Woo! Immigration should be a privilege, all respecting the earth beneath. We come to work towards integrity, to build foundations of healthier communities. We learn names, faces, and listen to each other speak. Trust what our actions are accomplishing, rather than prejudiced conformities, handed out to feed the doubt between the truly powerful, you and me.
I'd like to, may I?
Thank you.
I'd just like to say something about a thing called solidarity and about why we show up, I show up, you show up when we're just a still, small, quiet voice in the background. As somebody said maybe a couple thousand years ago, I come not for the 99 so much as I come for the one. And what we're after is that one more person who will stand with us in solidarity, who will be with us in peace, and be with us for a living wage. And we're on the 1,000-year plan. We're on the 1,000-year plan. So, my good sisters and brothers, we just got to understand this. The earth has called us. I feel this. We're the hands of the earth. And we're here, and the earth has said, get up and show the people that they got to find a way to live in harmony with the earth. And hon, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. Maybe it's going to take one person at a time. Maybe it's going to take one march to the courthouse.
All right. That's
Solidarity. Mayday. Right on.
Yeah. Thank you. Everyone got a sign?
Do you have materials? I don't know.
Stronger. And besides, I never even met these people hardly. I've seen you before, but I hardly even met you. You get my drift, and you guys are like strange humans. Hey, with solidarity, just, weak solidarity. Yay for the brave and strong, yay!
Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to join the band.
this evening, we would just like to remind you, please turn off your cell phones. Let's unplug and tap into community instead, just for the evening. So we have a few people in the audience who have been doing this for their entire lives. This process for Barry Plunkett, Michael Allen Andrews, Rita Jankowski, Sonny Mason, Marjorie Gills, Nick Parcell, and Charles Martin.
No.
And tonight is a little bit of honoring a tradition, but it's also honoring individuals within our community who've been walking this walk and talking this talk for a long time. And we all know that it's time to wake up. Because tonight, for some of us who speak the lingo of Beltane, a new paradigm awakens. And it starts right now. And it would be great to see all these seats filled and the fools who did not come and sit in these seats. Because right here and right now, you all get to be at the birth of a new paradigm. We know it's happening. The divine feminine wakes up. And it happens now. So put your feet solidly on the ground and ground in. Because Mother Earth is going to hold you, and we are going to take your wings and open them up. And we're all going to remember who we are. And we're all going to wake it up. So wake up and get ready.
I'm going to share a few words and ask for a little moment of silence at the end for everyone we've lost in the struggle for our rights. Riding the rails northeast, dream is destiny. There is no final destination, only the continuation. This heart beats for peace. Away from the coastal fog, the atmosphere thickened instead by the choking breath of fires. The clouds like weak ghosts survey the brutal burning from on high as though they have been terrorized. From their right to assemble, their spirit victimized by the cruel conformity of rock pain, built this factory, drains, pipes, and sewage enslavement. May we rain the pavement like rain running, flooding with the will to regain life for the living. Seeding into cracks, our roots seek the nourishment imposed marginalization sought to contain them from, but we regain, for our shooting is living breath, while theirs is smoking mirrors of prejudice and ruling death. May each day awaken more Earth children to the reality of these fatalistic drains on a biological system. Life is not alive without death. I see death, O fertile healer. There is no life I touch to which you were not an integral teacher. I hold no fear for your cosmic door. For this life I will give, for life to freely endure, with much laughter.
Quit your job! Go to Missoula and fight with the lumberjacks for free speech.
Yeah!
Are you game? Are you afraid?
Yeah!
Do you love the police? Have you been robbed, scafted, or grafted on? If so, then come to Missoula.
Yeah!
And defy the police in the courts.
Come do your share, let
October 1909, at the corner of Higgins Avenue and Front Street in downtown Missoula, a watershed event in American history brought the nation's attention to the exercise of free speech rights.
Oh.
Down through the long, weary years, the will of the ruling class has been to suppress either the man or his message when they antagonized its interests. From the execution of the propagandists to the burning of books, down to the various degrees of censorship and expurgation, to the highly civilized legal indictment and winking at mob, crime by constituted authorities. The cry has ever been, crucify him. The ideas and activities of minorities are misunderstood and misrepresented. It is easier to condemn than to investigate. But I believe that discussion of even the most bitterly controverted matters is demanded by our love of justice, by our sense of fairness and an honest desire to understand the problems that are rending society. Let us review the facts relating to the situation of the IWWs. Since the United States entered the war with the declared purpose to conserve the liberties of the free peoples of the world. During the last few months in Washington State at Pasco and through the Yakima Valley, many IWW members have been arrested without warrants, thrown into bullpens without access to attorney, denied bail and trial by jury, and some of them shot. Did any of the leading newspapers denounce these acts as unlawful, cruel, undemocratic? No. On the contrary, most of them indirectly praised the perpetrators of these crimes for their patriotic service. Sounds familiar. But this is from August 1st, 1917. In Butte, Montana, a cripple, Frank Little, a member of the executive board of the IWW, was forced out of bed at 3 in the morning by masked citizens, dragged behind an automobile and hanged on a railroad trestle. Were the offenders punished? No. A high government official has publicly condoned this murder, thereby upholding lynch law and mob rule. On the 12th of last July, 1,200 miners were deported from Bisbee, Arizona without legal process. Among them were many who were not IWWs or even in sympathy. They were all packed into freight trains like cattle and flung upon the desert of New Mexico, where they would have died of thirst and hunger if an outraged society had not protested. Let us refuse to yield to conventional lies and censure. Let us raise our hearts tender towards those who are struggling mightily against the greatest evils of the age. Who is truly indicted? They or the social system that has produced them? A society that permits the conditions out of which the IWWs have sprung stand self-condemned. The IWW is pitted against the whole profit-making system. According to its statement, there can be no peace until the workers organized as a class take possession of the resources of the earth and the machinery of production and distribution and abolish the wage system.
Yes.
Woo! I think it is for this declaration of democratic purpose and not for any wish to betray their country that the IWW members are being persecuted, beaten, imprisoned, and murdered. Surely the demands of the IWW are just. It is right that the creators of wealth should own what they create. When shall we learn that we are all related to one another, that we are members of one body, that injury to one is injury to all? Until the spirit of love for our fellow workers, regardless of race, color, creed, or sex, shall fill the world, until the great mass of the people shall be filled with a sense of responsibility for each other's welfare, social justice cannot be attained, and there can never be lasting peace on earth. I know this is a hard, sad, strange struggle, and that long struggle which they have successfully won freedom of body from slavery and serfdom, freedom of mind, and more recently a voice in government has arrived at a new stage. The workers are still far from being in possession of themselves or their labor. They do not own and control the tools and materials which they must use in order to live, nor do they receive anything like the full value of what they produce. Working men everywhere are becoming aware that they are being exploited for the benefit of others, that they cannot be truly free unless they own themselves and their labor. The achievement of such economic freedom stands in prospect and at no distant date as the revolutionary climax of this age.
At this time, many U.S. towns had ordinances addressing public conduct that was sometimes selectively enforced against labor organizers, preventing them from street speaking and organizing. decided to make a stand in Missoula and be arrested to defend free speech rights, making Missoula the location of the first free speech fight and an early example of nonviolent civil disobedience.
Men and women, what is patriotism? Is it love of one's birthplace, the place of childhood's recollections and hopes, dreams and aspirations? Is it the place where, in childlike naivety, we would watch the passing clouds and wonder why we too could not float so swiftly? The place where we would count the myriad glittering stars, terror-stricken lest each one, and I should be, piercing the very depths of our little souls? Is it the place where we would listen to the music of the birds and long to have wings to fly, even as they to distant lands? Or is it the place where we would sit on mother's knee, enraptured by tales of great deeds and conquests? In short, is it love for the spot, every inch representing dear and precious recollections of a happy, joyous, and playful childhood? If that were patriotism, few American men of today would be called upon to be patriotic, since the place of play has been turned into factory, mill, and mine, while deepening sounds of machinery have replaced the music of the birds.
Yes!
No longer can we hear the tales of great deeds, for the stories of our mothers tell today are but those of sorrow, tears, and grief. What then is patriotism? Patriotism, sir, is the last resort of scoundrels, said Dr. Leo Tolstoy, the greatest anti-patriot of our time, defines patriotism as the principle that will justify the training of wholesale murderers.
Leo!
A trade that requires better equipment in the exercise of man-killing than the making of necessities such as shoes, clothing, and houses. A trade that guarantees better returns and greater glory than that of the honest working man. Indeed, conceit, arrogance, and egotism are the essentials of patriotism. Let me illustrate. Patriotism assumes that our globe is divided into little spots, each one surrounded by an iron gate. Those who have had the fortune of being born on some particular spot consider themselves nobler, better, grander, more intelligent than those living beings inhabiting any other spot. It is, therefore, the duty of everyone living on that chosen spot to fight, kill, and die in the attempt to impose his superiority upon all the others. The inhabitants of the other spots reason in like manner, of course, with the result that from early infancy, the mind of the child is provided with blood-curdling stories about the Germans, the French, the Italians, the Russians, etc. When the child has reached manhood, he is thoroughly saturated with the belief that he is chosen by the Lord himself to defend his country against the attack or invasion of any foreigner. It is for that purpose that we are clamoring for a greater army and navy, more battleships and ammunition. An army and navy represent the people's toys. To make them more attractive and acceptable, hundreds and thousands of dollars are being spent for the display of toys. That was the purpose of the American government in equipping a fleet and sending it along the Pacific coast, that every American citizen should be made to feel the pride and the glory of the United States. The city of San Francisco spent $100,000 for the entertainment of the fleet. Los Angeles, $60,000. Seattle and Tacoma, about $100,000. Yes, $260,000 were spent on fireworks, theater parties, and revelries, at a time when men, women, and children through the breadth and length of the country were starving in the streets, when thousands of unemployed were ready to sell their labor at any price. What could not have been accomplished with such an enormous sum? Instead of bread and shelter, the children of those cities were taken to see the fleet, that it may remain, as one newspaper said, a lasting memory for the child. A wonderful thing to remember, is it not? The implements of civilized slaughter. If the mind of the child is poisoned with such memories, what hope is there for a true realization of human brotherhood? The Americans claim to be a peace-loving people. We hate bloodshed. We're opposed to violence. Yet we go into spasms of joy over the possibility of projecting dynamite bombs from flying machines upon helpless citizens. We are ready to hang, electrocute, or lynch anyone who from economic necessity will risk his own life in the attempt upon that of some industrial magnate. Yet our hearts swell with pride at the thought that America is becoming the most powerful nation on earth, that she will eventually plant her iron foot upon the necks of all other nations. Such is the logic of patriotism. Thinking men and women the world over are beginning to realize that patriotism is too narrow and limited a conception to meet the necessities of our time. The centralization of power has brought into being an international feeling of solidarity amongst the oppressed nations of the world. A solidarity which represents a greater harmony of interest between the working man of America and his brothers abroad than between the American miner and his exploiting compatriot. A solidarity which fears not foreign invasion because it is bringing all the workers to the point where they will say to their masters, "Go and do your own killing. We have done it long enough for you."
Here!
The great force of that solidarity and, as a result, inaugurated a war against patriotism and its bloody specter, militarism. Thousands of men fill the prisons of France, Germany, Russia, and the Scandinavian countries because they dared defy the ancient superstition. America will have to follow suit. The spirit of militarism has already permeated all walks of life. Indeed, I am convinced that the militarism is a greater danger here than anywhere else, because of the many bribes capitalism holds out to those whom it wishes to destroy. The beginning has already been made in the schools. Children are trained in military tactics, the glory of military achievements extolled in the curriculum, and the youthful mind perverted to suit the government. Further, the youth of the country is appealed to in glaring posters to join the army and navy. A fine chance to see the world, cries the governmental huckster. Thus, innocent boys are morally shanghaied into patriotism, and the military Moloch strides conquering through the nation. When we have determined the patriotic lie, we shall have cleared the path for the great structure, while all shall be united in a universal brotherhood. A truly free society.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Workers from Missoula and from all around the U.S. stepped up to the soapbox one by one on the corner of Higgins and Front Avenue and were arrested and filled the jail to overflowing. Joins in, as you can tell. Missoula subsequently changed its enforcement practices and later enacted revisions to the law to allow greater freedom and respect to street speaking and public assembly.
On this day, September 19th, 1918, I, Eugene Debs, have been convicted of violating the Sedition Act.
Go, Eugene!
Thank you. I have this to say. Years ago, I recognized my kinship with all living things on this earth. And I made up my mind that I am not one bit better than the meanest of them. I said then, and I say now, that while there is a lower class, I am in it. And while there is a criminal element, I am of it. And while there is a soul in prison, I am not free. Standing here this morning, I recall my boyhood. At 14, I went to work in a railroad shop. At 16, I was firing a freight engine on the railroad. I remember all the hardships and privations of that earlier day. And from that time until now, my heart has been with the working class. I could have been in Congress long ago. I preferred to go to prison. I am thinking on this morning of the men in the mills and the factories, the men in the mines and on the railroads. I'm thinking of the women who for a paltry wage are compelled to work out their barren lives. And of the little children who in this system are robbed of their childhoods and in their tender years are seized in the remorseless grasp of capitalism and forced into industrial dungeons there to feed the monstrous machines while they themselves are being starved and stunted, body and soul.
That's right.
I see them dwarfed and diseased, and their little lives broken and blasted. Because in this, the high noon of Christian civilization, money is still so much more important than the flesh and blood of children. In very truth, gold is God today and rules with a pitiless sway over the affairs of men.
Sure does.
Sure does.
In this country, the most favored beneath the bending skies, we have vast areas of the richest and most fertile soil, material resources in inexhaustible abundance, and the most marvelous productive machinery on earth, and millions of eager workers ready to apply their labor to that machinery to produce in abundance for every man, woman, and child.
Yes.
And if there are still vast numbers of people who are victims of poverty and whose lives are unceasing struggle all the way from youth to old age, it is not the fault of the Almighty. It cannot be charged to nature, but it is due entirely to the outgrown social system in which we live, and it ought to be abolished. It ought to be abolished not only in the interests of the toiling masses, but in the higher interest of all of humanity.
Yes.
I believe that this nation ought to own and control its own industries.
Yes.
I believe that all the things that are jointly needed and used should be jointly owned. That industry, the basis of our social life, instead of being a private property of a few and operated for their enrichment, ought to be the common property of all, democratically administered in the interest of all. I am opposing the social order in which it is possible for one man who does absolutely nothing of use to amass a fortune of hundreds of millions of dollars, while millions of men and women who work all day, all their lives, secure barely enough for a wretched existence. This order of things cannot endure.
No.
I have registered my protest against it, and I recognize the feebleness of my effort. But, fortunately, I am not alone. There are multiplied thousands of others who, like myself, have come to realize that before we may truly enjoy the blessings of a civilized life, we must recognize society upon a mutual and cooperative basis.
Yes.
And to this end, we have organized a great economic and political movement that spreads over the face of the earth. There are today millions of devoted adherents to this cause, regardless of nationality, race, creed, color, or sex.
Yes.
They are all making common cause. They are spreading with tireless energy the propaganda of a new social order. Yes. They are waiting, watching, and working hopefully through all the hours of the day and the night. and they are still a minority. But they have learned how to be patient and to bide their time. They know indeed, that the time is coming. And in spite of all opposition, all persecution, when this emancipating gospel will spread among all the people, and when this minority will become the triumphant majority and, sweeping into power, inaugurate the greatest social and economic change in history. And in that day, we shall have a universal commonwealth. The harmonious cooperation of every nation with every other nation on this earth. Yes. I can see the dawn of that better day for humanity. For the people are awakening, and in due time they will and must come to their own. When the mariner, sailing on tropic seas, looks for relief on his weary watch, he turns his eyes to the Southern Cross, burning luridly in that tempest-vexed ocean. As the midnight approaches, the Southern Cross begins to bend. The whirling worlds change their paces, and with starry finger points, the Almighty marks the passage of time upon the dial of the universe. And the lookout knows that the midnight is passing, and that relief and rest are close at hand. Let the people everywhere take hope, for the cross is bending. The midnight is passing, and joy cometh with the morning. Thank you.
Defenders of free speech, they moved on to larger towns to make similar stands for freedom and justice.
We, the women of this country, have no ballot, even if we wish to use it. And the only way that we can be represented is to take a man to represent us. Woo! You men have made such a mess of it that we have not much confidence in asking you. We are the slaves of slaves. We are exploited more ruthlessly than men. Whenever wages are to be reduced, the capitalist class use women to reduce them. And if there is anything that you men should do in the future, it is to organize the women. Now, what do we mean when we say socialist, revolutionary socialist? We mean that the land shall belong to the landless, the tools to the toiler, and the products to the producers. I believe that if every man and every woman who works, who toils in the mines, mills, the workplace, the fields, the factories, and the farms of our broad America should decide in their minds that they shall have that which rightfully belongs to them, and that no idler shall live upon their toil, then there is no army that is large enough to overcome you, for you yourselves constitute an army. My conception of the strike of the future is to not strike and go out and starve, but to strike and remain in and take possession of the necessary property of production. Let us sink such differences as nationality, religion, politics, and set our eyes eternally and forever toward the rising star of the industrial republic of labor. Remembering that we have left the old behind and have set our faces toward the future. There is no power on earth that can stop men and women who are determined to be free of all hazards. No power. There is no power on earth so great as the power of intellect. It moves the world and it moves the earth. I hope even now to live to see the day when the new dawn of the new era of labor will have arisen, when capitalism will be a thing of the past, and the new industrial republic, the commonwealth of labor, shall be in operation. I thank you.
Orchestral Band thanks you for joining us this evening to honor American labor history and Missoula's important role in defending free speech rights. I hope you all for the children joining us. Let's build a better new future for them. Join the band, learn the songs. Viva la Revolution!